Boom! What's going on, guys? Energy News Beat, episode number 160 here on this gorgeous Monday, November 16th, 2020. I am your humble correspondent, Michael Tanner, coming to you from an undisclosed location here in Denver, Colorado. As always, joined by the executive producer of the show, the creator of the show, and the director and publisher of the world's greatest website, oilandgas360.com, Stuart Turley. How you doing today?
It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood, and we got a busy week.
We do have a busy week. If you haven't checked out our Energy Rant podcast we dropped this morning on the Oil and Gas Show on iTunes or Spotify, I highly recommend checking that out. We cover a little more in depth a couple of the stories we covered today, but we have a pretty busy show for you guys lined up, as you can see here in the middle. Gulfport Energy files for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. We'll cover that. SM reaffirms its borrowing base. Guys, oil is up 5 percentage points. Natural gas down 10 percentage points. We'll cover all the movement. Stu's got some stuff in the international news desk. But first, guys, just subscribe to this YouTube channel, Oil and Gas 360/Enercom. Turn on those pesky notifications. Do whatever makes the algorithms know to really appreciate all the support we've been getting. On the equity front today, holy smokes, guys, we have a new vaccine. Stocks moving up a little bit with the Dow Jones reaching intraday all-time highs, 29,826 currently. We're almost at 30,000 for the Dow, which would be unbelievable considering where we were at in June. If you had told me Dow would be back at 30,000 in the midst of this coronavirus pandemic, let's say 6 months ago, I would have laughed at you. But Moderna, this time, Stu, really interesting. With the old vaccine, there was issues around the transportation. It had to be stored very cold. This can be held in a normal refrigerator for up to 30 days at those temperatures. So that's seen on the trading floor as a really big positive movement. As I mentioned, SPY was up 0.75 of a percentage point. Nasdaq only up 0.75 of a percentage point. And again, that's because, if there's more people out and about, less time for them to buy Amazon. Guys, crude oil, though, up at 1.5 percentage points on the day, now trading that futures contract at about 3 percentage points up, 41.40. If there's anything that benefits the most from people coming back to work and getting moving just out and about, it's going to be crude oil. Look for, bullish signs all around, really in the face of a lot of bearish fundamentals. So pretty interesting to see what'll play out. 12-month strip, 43.03. That's 1.6 percentage point. So even the back end of the strip getting hurt. Warmer temperatures come in and absolutely eviscerate natural gas prices, down 10 percentage points. Woo! $2.68. Where's Inveris now telling us $3.50 gas? Just unbelievable. Back into the curve, $3 percentage points off the back, $2.94. It just kills me with these high natural gas prices that we're being called. It's going to be very interesting to see where this plays out. Now, this is really off the back of a weather report, Stu, that, remember, if you follow the Haynes and Boone Energy Tracker, we love our boys over at Aegis, Matt Marshall. He mentioned that all the weather services are showing this November being probably the 5th hottest on record that we've had in the past 20, 30 years. That has now been extended to December. Woof! It's about to be warm coming in. It makes sense. It's really gorgeous out here as we sit here about 116 here in Denver, Colorado.
Wow.
We move our XOP contract 51.36. That's up 5 percentage points. OIH up 8 percentage points. Woohoo! Nothing like energy prices going crazy. Let's go ahead and take a look at a couple of the numbers on the downside. Still some numbers that move on the downside. Southwestern down 3 percentage points. Cabot Oil and Gas down 3 percentage points. EQT down 3 percentage points. Interesting. They had a little tender offer we'll talk about. And Gulfport Energy, 43% on the downside on the back of Chapter 11 bankruptcy. On the upside, though, great numbers. And not to say that this is a bankruptcy list, but guys, remember, companies that go up when oil moves up off vaccine news means they just couldn't sustain their production and they really need higher oil prices. Amplify Energy, Callum Petroleum, Evolution Petroleum Company, Prime Energy Resources, and High Point Resources, as they have just been purchased and are getting restructured, so kind of leave them out. Interesting list on the downside. Stu, what do you have on the international news desk today?
A bunch of things, Michael. I'll tell you, it's kind of interesting. You and I have been talking about the Turkey Libyan. We patted ourselves on the back. Got a confirmation from another source this morning. Libya's crude production has risen to 1.2 million barrels per day, and we called it on the show. And we even I got to give a shout out to our source in Libya that is a news person covering Libyan oil. This is from another source, and the NOC pegged production at 1.2 million barrels just before Anyway, pretty
You
big
called this
news.
one, Stu. You called this one from a mile away. We'll give you the golf clap for this one.
But the fun thing is that there are a lot of people saying the fundamentals and the technology was not there until the mid 2021. So they got to read a little between the lines. Hey, here's another good one, and you and I talked about it a little bit on the podcast this morning. Saudi Aramco relies on debt and bonds to meet its obligations to the Saudi government for their social programs. Some of the numbers in here, it seeks to fund a 75 billion dividend commitment.
Ooh.
Of that, I believe 70 million of that goes to the Saudi government. Holy smokes, that is a commitment.
And what's interesting is this is no different than what we've saw the super majors in the United States do. Chevron, Exxon, all have been using debt to fund dividend payments. You would think if there was one company who could avoid that, it'd be Saudi Aramco. I guess not.
Well, I have to hand it to Saudi Aramco. Their cost per barrel is about the lowest. Their long-term management plans, I think, are spot on. I think it's a societal thing that they need to work with the Saudi government to try to get rid of some of those social program monies or look at other investments. Hats off to Saudi Aramco for keeping their commitments. Hey, this one happened over the weekend, Michael. Going around the world, we were over in Saudi Aramco in Saudi right now. Now we're buzzing down to Peru. And they had, I think, their third president in as many weeks. What does civil unrest do for the energy sector? Holy smokes, man. This is the president that just got sworn in. He's waving hello. He's also waving goodbye. So, I mean, our friends over at Geopark do have fields down in Argentina, so our hearts go out to them. And they have 130 different political parties in Argentina. This will be a story to watch to see how civil unrest affects energy prices. So one to watch. Don't know all the answers. Looking for some sources down there.
Yeah, that'll be really interesting to see what the fallout on oil prices, because as you mentioned, we have our friends at Geopark. There's a lot of companies that are big there. Exxon used to have a big presence. There's interesting to see everything falls. So before we move in to the U.S. shale news, guys, this show is powered by Data Gumbo, an award-winning technology with customers all around the world who build, manage, and automate their own smart contracts. Data Gumbo's smart contracts, of course they're smart, offer a new approach to commercial relationships, one that reduces friction, delivers streamlined operations, transactional certainty, and cost savings. Every transaction is accurate, touchless, and automated and powered via their Gumbo Net, the company's massively interconnected industrial blockchain network. Check everything Data Gumbo out, www.datagumbo.com. All right, let's move a couple things here. Gulfport Energy, they've been a dead man walking for a while now. They go ahead and enter into restructuring to eliminate about $1.25 billion of funded debt. They're going to receive a upon reemergence, $550 million of senior unsecured notes under the plan. They've also secured a $262 million debtor in possession or DIP financing from the existing lenders, and including $105 million of new money that will be available upon the court's approval. They've also received a commitment from the existing lenders to provide an additional $580 in exit financing upon emergence. David M. Wood, president and CEO, of Gulfport Energy, said, quote, since Gulfport's leadership was constituted in 2019, we have undertaken decisive action to streamline our business, strengthen our balance sheet, focus on cash flow generation, exercise capital discipline, and drive, I'm not making any of this up, by the way, and drive operational efficiencies and cost reductions of the company. Now we get into the good stuff. Despite these efforts, our large legacy debt, yeah, don't worry, it's not your fault, man, in burden addition to the significant legacy from firm credit. I can't finish this. Point is, Gulfport Energy, guys, entered into restructuring. Be interesting to see what plays. I mean, like I said, I don't think anybody saw this coming. It wasn't a matter of if, it was a matter of when. over 95% of their credit facility lenders and certain note holders have agreed to this facility, and they've got about 2/3 of their aggregate principal senior unsecured note holders who have agreed to this. So a large number of their base agreeing to this, which probably means this was meant to happen. As this continues to roll out, we'll see if any structural changes. It'll be interesting to see if this management team stays through. I would like to think so, because if you not to agree, I hate agreeing with the press release, but yes, this management team did not necessarily get them into this type of that. They are cleaning up the scraps a little bit from what's happened before. So my guess is this leadership team probably stays through this. Be interesting to see if they stay Gulfport or go ahead and rebrand as something else. Another thing, talking about dead men walking, SM Energy reaffirmed its borrowing base and senior secured revolving credit facility, reaffirmed at $1.1 billion. And which provided liquidity of approximately $880 million as of September 30th. They've also their second lien debt capacity was adjusted to $380 million, and that was extended to the spring 2020 borrower reaffirmation. This is a kick the can down the road. I kick the can down the road thing for the bank. I mean, what do you do? Do you cut them 50% and cause them to go into forbearance, or do you readmit them? Do you gamble on higher oil prices? Because that's what all of these RBL lenders have to think right now. All these banks, they're thinking, Stu. I mean, they're sitting there. Our oil price is going to be higher come spring 2021 than they are now. That's the decision they have to make. Because if so, you can kick the can down the road and hopefully hold out for oil price. But if it's not going to happen, well, now you're just shooting yourself in the other foot that you're using to kick the can down the road the next time. So it's really, this is a gamble on higher oil prices, not just for SM, but specifically their RBL lenders. It'll be interesting to see how they come out. The funny part is they're also going to go ahead and use all of this new money to complete new wells in South Texas. Oh, great. We've seen this story before. New money. Wells aren't making any money. Let's go ahead and just pour a couple million into some ducks. Yikes. All right.
What's a few ducks that don't go quack?
Yeah, no kidding. Another on this finance note, EQT announced that it, as we ran last week, remember they had a $150 million maximum tender offer that they ran 2 weeks ago. They've now upped it to $200 million after receiving about $181 million, or about $31 million more than they were expecting. It's interesting, guys. Are they going to use this to get back in on the M&A market? We talked last week. Toby Rice, CEO of EQT, he was quoted in Bloomberg as saying M&A is the only way to create value for investors. We don't necessarily agree with that on the show, but if that's where they're moving forward, this is going straight to M&A. The question is, what is this money going to be used for? Are they going to go out and get CNN? They've kind of been getting crushed recently off some of their reserves recently. There's a really interesting Twitter breakdown that if you're interested in, I'm not a reservoir engineer, but if you are, there's a really interesting breakdown of they might be a little off on their reserve. So maybe it's Cynics, maybe it's another player out there, maybe it's who knows what EQT decides to do, but they're going to be M&M players, and it's a Michael guarantee, which means I don't really know what's going to happen. I'm just guessing, but probably going to be used for M&A. When we look at it, the other thing we got to cover, as I mentioned, oil is going to continue to rip as long as there's vaccine news. Any positive vaccine news that's going to get people out and about is going to cause oil. I know that slaps in the face of all the fundamentals, but that's the market we're trading in. It's unbelievable. Stu, we miss anything today?
No. I think we got a new business proposition to do, though. I think you and I are going to go out and buy our own movie company, and then we're going to film our own version of The Walking Dead. See, this Walking Dead is going to have a bunch of walking rigs. You've seen the walking rigs, right?
Yes.
So we're going to have The Walking Dead driving walking rigs from pad to pad.
I think there's big money in this. If you guys are movie producers, reach out to us, mtanner@entercominc.com. And with that, guys, we're going to let you get out of here, get back to work, finish up your day. Thank you for checking us out on the world's greatest website, oilandgas360.com. For Stuart Turley, I'm Michael Tanner. We will see you guys tomorrow with another episode of the Energy News Beat.